Good afternoon, I'm Sean Yao, and this is One News Now. President Duterte has agreed to place Metro Manila and other areas in the Philippines under general community quarantine come June 1. The president claims that the country's COVID-19 response is progressing at a very fast rate, courtesy of our uniformed personnel. Faye Tobias has the rest of that story.
President Duterte heeded to the recommendation of the Interagency Task Force on Emerging Infectious Diseases, or IATF, to downgrade Metro Manila's status to a general community quarantine come June 1. In a speech aired Thursday night, the chief executive also announced other GCQ areas until June 15. These are Davao City, Cagayan Valley, Central Luzon, Calabarzon, as well as the provinces of Pangasinan and Albay. Cebu will remain under modified community quarantine, while the rest of the country will be on GCQ.
We are not happy to put in this place, but after review, maybe we can. In other areas, it will be, again, on a piecemeal basis, depending on the viability of the place to meet the challenges of COVID.
Duterte's decision came hours after the health department reported the country's biggest single-day jump since the outbreak emerged earlier this year. NCR accounted for the majority of the new cases at 330 or 61%. In the same speech, the president claimed that the country's COVID-19 response is progressing at a very fast rate, courtesy of the uniformed personnel.
They are called upon to assist the civil government. Yan lang ang trabaho na at makita ninyo, we are progressing at a very fast rate because we were able to put in place the rules to be followed when COVID came in like a storm from the outside.
The chief executive also made his usual mention of China, expressing confidence that the Asian giant will be one of the first countries to discover a vaccine for COVID-19. It was in Wuhan, China, that the virus originated late last year.
September, I think China will be able to distribute, if I'm not mistaken.
The president also gave marching orders to local leaders to attend to the hospitalization of COVID-19 positive Filipinos, promising to shoulder the cost.
That is really an order of the national government to the local governments. Help, do not deny, and you must expedite this hospitalization until he is cured. No problem about payment, I will pay. Just bill me and I will pay.
Currently, the Philippine Health Insurance Corporation shoulders the COVID-19 tests of Filipinos. The state insurer also fully paid for the hospitalization and treatment costs of all COVID-19 patients admitted before April 15, but has since followed new case rates as it admitted it could not cover all patients. For News 5, Faye Tobias, we are One News.
In spite of that, the Private Hospitals Association of the Philippines warns that around 300 small private hospitals are on the verge of closure due to the impact of COVID-19. In an interview with One News' The Chiefs, FAPI President Rustico Jimenez said that half of its members could possibly face closure due to few non-COVID patients going to medical facilities, as well as the delayed payment from PhilHealth for COVID-19 cases. He added that only 46% of their members have so far received the payment that PhilHealth claims it had advanced. FAPI underscores that PhilHealth reimbursements will enable small hospitals to continue operations amid the pandemic.
Sinabi ko na nga po sa meeting namin na pabilisin po yung bayad ng PhilHealth, number 1. Number 2 po, yung pinangako nila na advance payment, pabilisin din po. Kasi po kung 46% lang yung nakatanggap, how about the hospitals in the provinces na maliliit? Yung po ang posibleng magsara eh.
We're going to pause for a quick break, but we will be back with more stories after that. Stay with us here on One News. Welcome back to One News Now. All rail operations are set to resume on the first day of GCQ come June 1, but in a limited capacity. In a televised IATF meeting with President Duterte on Thursday night, Transportation Secretary Art Tugade said the LRT and MRT trains will be carrying 10% to 12% of their regular passenger capacity. The Philippine National Railways trains, meanwhile, will carry 35% passenger capacity per trip. As for the aviation front, Tugade says the DOTR will be expanding international gateways to include Clark, Cebu, and Davao airports. This is also in a bid to decongest the NAIA.
It is now also vested with the responsibility that the Department of Transportation must help in preventing the spread of the coronavirus. This having been said, the approach of the Department of Transportation is partial, gradual and calculated, and more importantly, by phases.
And traffic authorities are now busy preparing the innermost lanes of EDSA that are now designated as bus lanes once public transportation resumes under GCQ or General Community Quarantine status. To give us the details, we have with us Gerard de la Peña joining us from EDSA Ortigas. Gerard, everybody wants to know this. What's going on or what's going to happen under GCQ?
Well, Sean, what you are seeing right now are the pre-construction activities for the conversion of this portion of EDSA into drop-off and pick-up points for buses. Well, earlier this morning, we've made rounds of EDSA and found that the two innermost lanes of the northbound lane of Estrella and Guadalupe have concrete barriers. The center island at the Guadalupe Bridge is also being demolished. Motorists can also expect a bottleneck as they approach Boni and Reliance, as there are also construction activities in the area. This is also the same case in front, right here at SM Mega Mall. The plant boxes in the center island are also being demolished near Main Avenue in Cubao. The Transportation Department explains the two innermost lanes of EDSA will be dedicated to buses. That means the yellow lane at the outermost lanes of EDSA can now be used by private motorists. Passengers may use the footbridges as well as the pedestrian overpasses at MRT stations such as those in Guadalupe, Ortigas, Santolan, Cubao, GMA Kamuning, Quezon Avenue, and North Avenue. In an interview with 1PH this morning, Transportation Assistant Secretary Bert Swansing said they will introduce footbridges and pedestrian crossing dedicated for elderly people or persons with disabilities. Swansing assured that they will install safety features to protect them, and this scheme is similar to the bus rapid transit that the government is envisioning for EDSA. This is the same system that is practiced in countries with more efficient transport systems. The government said this will be ready before June 21, when city buses will be allowed to ply EDSA. Let's hear it from MMDA spokesperson Celine Pialago.
So hindi na ho ito pwedeng basta-basta na lang magbababa ng pasahero at magsasakay kung saan-saan. Dahil po yung nakikita nyong kinoconstruct, doon po dapat magbaba at magsakay ng mga pasahero. Samantalang ang mga pasahero naman po, ang ima-maximize nilang tawiran ay yung mga existing stations po ng MRT.
Well, Sean, authorities are set to conduct an inspection of various MRT stations during the weekend, so we will have a clear picture of how the system will work by then. Sean.
That's right, Gerard. As early as today, we already noticed the cones that are on the innermost, dividing the innermost lanes of EDSA. So, as MMDA spokesperson Celine Pialago said, this is to prevent buses from offloading and loading passengers, as it would be under normal circumstances where they just get on and off. So moving them to the inner lane, they're hoping will curb this. Is that the rationale behind it?
Yes, that's right. The cones and the barriers are meant to segregate the buses from the private vehicles, and the construction, pre-construction activities such as this one where I am right now. This is under an MRT, below an MRT station, and this is where the drop-off and pick-up points for bus passengers. Sean.
All right. With regard to buses, a lot of people also want to know, Gerard, how many buses really will be allowed to ply EDSA, or just allowed to operate in general. Have they given you any specific figures on that?
Well, Sean, as Secretary Tugade mentioned last night during the briefing with the President, he said that the opening up of public transport would be gradual and calculated. So for now, I think starting on June 21, when buses will be allowed to fly EDSA once again, they will start with 300 and will only increase from there on depending on the demand. Sean.
All right, can't help but ask this, Gerard, but any updates on a possible bike lane? We see now that EDSA is being reconfigured, so the third lane used to be the motorcycle lane. Now, if the bus lane is now moved to the innermost lane, what then happens to the motorcycle lane, and what now is the latest update on a possible bike lane for actual bicycles na yung padjak?
Good question, Sean. We were not able to ask about what will happen to the motorcycle lanes, but the medium to long-term plan for bicycle lanes is that they're going to expand the pedestrian walkways along EDSA, and they will also reduce the size of the lanes here. So they will have extra space for pedestrians and bike lanes. So that's what bikers can look forward to maybe before the end of the year. Sean.
All right, so definitely not come June 1 yet, right?
That's right. Their target is before the end of the year, but as of now, maybe bikers can just take caution, and they were also advised not to go in the middle of EDSA and just stay at the pedestrian walkways. Sean.
All right, so bikes on the sidewalks for now until they sort that out. Thank you very much for all those updates, Gerard de la Peña, joining us live from the corner of EDSA and Ortigas. Thanks, Gerard. We'll have more stories after another quick break. Stay with us here on One News. You're still with us here on One News Now. The Trade Department proposes the gradual reopening of stores under general community quarantine. In this afternoon's House hearing, Trade Secretary Mon Lopez says that stores should be allowed to reopen gradually as long as they comply with the DTI's minimum health standards. And these include the implementation of social distancing, the wearing of safety and protective equipment, as well as integrating cashless payments. The DTI says businesses and establishments that will not comply will be ordered temporarily closed. Meanwhile, Lopez is also pushing for the earlier reopening of dine-in restaurants provided that they comply with health protocols.
So ang ginagawa lang po natin, at least for the NCR, Regions 3-4, kung sino yung under GCQ, we're trying our best na mapaaga yung pag-reopen even on a gradual basis, kahit 30%, 60%, para maumpisahan na lang uli yung dining.
And the Labor Department has issued an administrative order to address the issues amid the government's efforts in sending home repatriated overseas Filipino workers. Labor Secretary Silvestre Bello III said that the order provides for the establishment of a crisis management committee which will handle all the necessary information of OFWs. According to Bello, the government has facilitated the transport of more than 19,000 OFWs. And nearly a week after the release of Absolute Bop, Rain on Me, Lady Gaga dropped her long-awaited collaboration with Blackpink. The song, titled Sour Candy, features both Korean and English lyrics, with the Korean group joining the American pop superstar on vocals. The song hit #1 on iTunes charts in more than 57 countries. And when asked about the collaboration, Gaga said she wanted to support powerful women such as Blackpink. Her new album, called Chromatica, meanwhile, is now out. It was slated for release in April, but this was postponed due to the pandemic. For more updates, follow News 5, The Philippine Star, and Business World online. I'm Sean Yao, and we are One News.